Hello and welcome back to the Canon Factory, an elegant podcast for a more civilized age. I'm your host, Sean, and I'm joined by...
This is Matt.
This is Richie.
And it's Adam.
And Ike.
And we're going to kick things off with the news. Ike Lacey, our resident news guy, go ahead and take on over.
Every time. I love it. Yeah, I'm the resident something, aren't I? So, yeah, on the news this week, today's Wednesday, my dudes. Which means a lot of good things. It means the Star Wars show come out with their video. Ooh. So the Star Wars show this week interviewed Kathleen Kennedy, our praise the Lord Kennedy.
Praise be to Kathleen.
Praise be to Kathleen. So she was talking as Andy Gutierrez was interviewing her this week and said some interesting things, specifically in reference to the future of Star Wars. I said, hey, Kathleen, what's the next 10 years look like? Or something to that effect.
Right.
And she said, it looks like us making lots more movies, and it makes it look and it looks a lot. Just get that excited, you know?
Right,
Star Wars, guys, more movies, lightsabers, vistas. Yeah, so she was just saying how, there's a lot more stories that we want to tell, and she specifically listed Poe, BB-8, Rey, Finn, and I think that was it. I don't think she said anything exclusively. I don't think we should read into that too much.
Hot take. I'd go watch those movies.
Yeah, so would I. But I think the big question on everybody's mind recently is like, $4 billion that was a Lucasfilm being bought by Disney.
Right.
How long are they going to milk this cow? Which we were all like, please milk this cow.
Eternally, right.
Yeah, which we were hoping they would. But we didn't know how far they were going to go past the Skywalker saga.
Right.
Because they've specifically been saying Skywalker saga now. As if there's another saga to be planned.
Ooh, I never thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm. Really? You never had, actually?
No.
Are you just being
no,
like that?
No, I'm being serious. Like, they always refer to it. I thought they were just kind of deferring between the main movies and the anthology films.
Oh, I always read it as, here's the Skywalker saga because there could be another saga. We need to start labeling our sagas.
Ike Lacey,
look at me.
Son of a gun.
Sorry, I thought that was...
The prospect
No,
of
you're just above us all intellectually.
Oh, look at me.
You must be a Rick and
Ike,
Morty
our
fan.
resident high horse. So, yeah. Anyway, that's a little bit of news. I don't know if we necessarily should read into it like a ton. But
no,
I mean,
it's just encouraging to you.
Yeah, I think all of us were like, we know that something's... Are they going to keep doing the Skywalker saga? Are they going to tell new sagas? Are they going to keep going with new characters? Are they going to bring in new stuff? Are they going to make TV shows? Right. I mean, they got to keep making money, right? They have a $4 billion investment, which they've almost made back probably. But for the most part, where's this going? And it's exciting to hear that. I think we all knew they were going to do something, but they haven't officially said anything. And I would say this is about as official as it gets. So
that's awesome.
That's our resident news. Richie, you had some also
with the weather.
Some news for us.
Yeah. So I just came across an interesting article today. Just for those of you that don't know, the way it works when a studio releases a film is they cut a deal with theaters across the country and different entertainment companies that own the theaters. And the deals usually have to do with like how much of the cut the studio gets as far as revenue from ticket sales, things like that. Well, there was an article in Wall Street Journal today that was talking about how the terms that Disney have set for The Last Jedi are some of the most stringent that have ever been seen. And there are three big ones. So the first term, and this is pretty crazy, is that Disney will receive about 65% of ticket revenue from the film, no matter where it's shown.
What's a normal amount?
Not 65.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah, that's really high. And then, that's the first term. And then the second term is that Disney is requiring that any theater that shows Last Jedi has to show it on their biggest screen for 4 weeks at least. So, which is kind of interesting. I would imagine that a movie as big as Star Wars, that's pretty much going to be the case anyway.
Right. Oh, I remember for The Force Awakens, it was like, how long were they sold out, Sean? We were talking about it like shortly after. I remember it was like It was like 3 or 4 weeks after they were still sold out. Some of the theaters
some of the
were
shows
on
yeah.
the
sold
weekends.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was still the biggest movie, like well into almost February.
Right.
So
And it
anyways.
came out like second week in December.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
According to the week, the average movie studio gets 60% of the proceeds.
So
from box
5% is
5%.
significant.
Yeah,
up
but
in
that's-
it.
that's
And
pretty
here-
big.
when you're talking
moving
about
on
a
to-
film that's like going to make
No, that's a ton of
$1
money.
billion.
upwards of $500 million at least, then
Oh.
5% difference is
Well,
huge.
It was like
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It broke $1 billion. I think.
Yeah.
Total,
Oh, yeah.
total sales.
Right,
yeah,
right, yeah.
The
I
Force
think
Awakens
I
did,
think
so.
Rogue
This one
One
did
did
more.
too.
Yeah.
Anyways, and so the third term is that ignoring the terms that Disney set, if a theater violates any condition of the distribution agreement, Disney can take an additional 5% cut. So another 5% if a theater doesn't
Correct.
follow those first two terms, which would bring the studio's total haul to 70% of the sales in the movie. So, yeah.
Jeez.
So if you're an AMC or a Regal, you're going to be following those terms. Otherwise, your cut from ticket sales is only going to be 30% out of 500 million at least.
That actually makes me wonder how often theaters fight against those requirements on a normal basis.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
a good point.
this article. If you're interested and you're listening, it was posted in the Wall Street Journal, and that's kind of what the rest of the article goes on to talk about. How the theater industry is kind of struggling in recent years, and part of that has come with some heat between studios and theaters who have traditionally been partners in the movie industry, but the last couple of years have been kind of strenuous on that relationship. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool article if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think, man. It's November. We can say we are a month away from seeing The Last Jedi. Next month we're going to be
Next
watching
month.
the
Next
movie.
month.
As I said, I texted you guys, and I was like, hey, guys, you want to go to the movies with me next month?
Oh, yes,
I
please.
was like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I think
So-
we're 44 days away from the 14th or 43 days away.
4 days.
Yeah, we're right there.
That's like not that many days.
No. I always get hype
remember-
over the weekends because I have the little dry erase board next to my desk.
Yeah.
I keep track of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm always like, oh, yeah, weekend. Like
Yeah.
right now I'm thinking like, oh, like starting Monday I'm going to be in the 30s.
I keep
dude.
track of days until The Last Jedi
Yep.
and Virginia Tech football scores.
Oh my
On
gosh,
my
get out of
driving.
here.
That's all that Richie
Go
is.
Hokies!
gobble, gobble. Gobble, gobble. You guys don't know we're from Virginia.
Oh, yikes.
Well,
Our
Anyways.
final piece of news.
a third part.
Third part. Surprise. Short amount of time, 16 days until Star Wars Battlefront 2 comes out.
Toot.
Super exciting.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest amount of conflict with that has been the announcement that there was going to be loot crates, and it was kind of like a pay-to-win scale.
Mhm.
And EA actually, for once, heard the people and have changed.
Really?
Yeah, this is as of, I think, either late last night or early this morning.
Huh.
It was a full change list for what's going to be different. So originally, there's going to be these loot crates that you can buy, and the highest tier card is called an Epic Star card. We're going to be in these crates. So theoretically, you could buy crates and immediately have like the best things
The
in
best
the game.
things in the game, yeah.
Now they've removed them from the crates, and the only way you can make them is if you level up and are at a good high enough level to craft the cards. So you have to like
Okay.
get crafting materials, I guess, in order to craft the cards.
Yeah, that's weird.
Which is interesting, and you won't be able to grind down everything that you get from the crates in order to craft the cards because you have to
Okay.
level up, and you'll have to reach certain ranks within certain classes to get certain weapons. So you can't
Right.
again like you can't just immediately unlock everything from crates. You have to
Right.
play the game. So that's kind of cool that EA, I think with the news of Visceral Games closing and that game,
Yeah.
kind of that everyone's been looking forward to getting the axe. Or not getting the axe, but being reworked. It's still happening. It's just changing
Right.
to probably a multiplayer game, not single player. But it's good to see EA here.
It's kind of cool that EA showing that when it comes to Star Wars, just like Darth Vader, anyone can be redeemed.
Oh.
I would go so far as redemption because EA is still on my hit
Yeah, I
list.
still hate EA.
And they're
Yeah.
still
Forget
like,
what I
oh,
said.
here's microtransactions in a $60 game.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, forget everything we just said.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know,
Well,
honestly,
yeah.
I'm okay, and this is probably terrible of me, but I'm okay with microtransactions on the free games.
Yeah, but that I don't care.
You know,
Yeah, if
like
it's
pay
free
to win
game,
if in a free game,
that's fine.
you know, I can deal with it.
Yeah, you gotta
But
make
in a
money
$60
somehow.
game, pay to win, or even microtransactions, I'm
Come
like,
on.
really?
Yeah, don't make
Yeah.
them dime me.
Listen,
At least respect me in some way.
yeah, and I
But-
don't feel respected.
I don't. But that's our news.
At least take me out to dinner first.
Right? Exactly.
If there's anything that we missed or that you know about, go ahead and hit us up on Twitter at the Canon Factory and just kind of let us know what you're interested in, what you're hearing, and what you want to talk about. We're gonna move on to a new series that we're going to start over the next couple of episodes where we're going to start to dissect the villains of Star Wars and kind of discuss about what their character arcs were in the films or the TV shows or both, and to kind of see what direction they might take Kylo Ren and Snoke in The Last Jedi. It seems really clear that those two are going to be these pivotal figures in the film. And it's also clear that they don't kind of play the role that we've seen a villain play before. So we want to kind of dissect these other villains to try to see what tropes are missing from the Star Wars films and to see what maybe is still available that can go in a different path with, if that makes sense. So we're going to start our episode off today with the Phantom Menace, or arguably not the Phantom Menace, but Darth Maul himself, the boy who was stolen as a child and taken under the wing of Chancellor Palpatine.
One angsty boy.
One angsty boy who breathes in a lot of dead Jedi dust in a comic, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, Darth Maul. What do you guys? What's your initial views of Darth Maul?
Do
you like
a lot
him?
of our what do you think the general consensus is on where do you think our listener base even knows about Darth Maul outside of the Phantom Menace? Just out of curiosity.
I would say.
That's probably going to be most people's exposure.
Yeah, I mean, Phantom Menace.
Just
is probably,
but you think solely?
Yeah,
or?
spoiler alert. He lives after the Phantom Menace.
He gets cut in
Don't know if you knew
half
that.
and lives. If you didn't know.
I'm going to quibble a little bit with your use of that phraseology.
With me or him?
Well, you're gonna quibble.
I think he said quibble, which is probably the whitest term I've ever heard him say.
Well, this is a Star Wars podcast.
That's true.
Does that mean you got to use the word quibble?
I feel like Star Wars is generally racially diverse.
Yeah,
because of
dude.
the-
Let's not go down this road.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should probably re-record this.
Matt, it's 2017. Ball up. Let's go.
2017. Oh, getting to throw back
Okay,
at you.
but
All right, let's
everybody
go.
knows
Bring
that
up your
you
quibbles.
can't
Go ahead,
use
quibble with me.
"he lives" for Darth Maul. That's a travesty.
You're
really,
right.
it's
You're
blasphemy.
All
is what it
right, well-
actually is.
That he lived.
He's trying to make a joke because of
It's not a joke.
The
It's
song
serious.
"He Lives in Us," which we for you guys who don't know, which I guarantee you don't know because nobody knows.
Have we never talked
There's
about this?
a
I don't think
random
we ever
there's a
have.
random tribute video on YouTube called "He Lives in Us," which is the song from The Lion King by Phil Collins.
Which we should tweet now.
It's actually-
'cause
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll tweet it.
I'll just let it go.
we should
No,
tweet that.
It's what? Who's it by?
It's not by Phil Collins.
All right, who's it by?
I don't know his name, but it's not.
Doesn't Phil Collins
It's
sing
not. It's not Phil
No.
Collins.
No.
Confirmed. Richie.
Whatever. Richie, our resident
He-
musician.
He is wearing a
Tony.
Rush shirt today.
It's not the point. We're so off track. Anyway, there's a YouTube video where it's super emotional, where they show Qui-Gon Jinn's life and him dying with the Lion King song "He Lives in Us" in the background. It's super sad,
And it's
we
not
love
ironic.
it. It's totally not ironic.
It's
The
not
person made it
ironic.
in like 2012 or 2007, and it's like super serious and it's
Yeah.
weird. But we love it. And so we love Qui-Gon Jinn. So Matt's being weird about Mike saying he lives. It's a general statement that people just say on a daily basis.
We'll tweet the video. You guys can just go watch.
Yeah.
it.
It's
Anyway,
I
It's a
can
funny
tie
video.
this back in related.
nobody
to what Matt
can.
said. I
Because
can.
why are we here?
I can. Listen.
Qui-Gon and
So a lot of people that I run into when I talk about Darth Maul with more casual fans, they know about how he's brought back in Clone Wars, but they don't. A lot of people don't seem to realize that that's canon.
oh,
It's really interesting.
okay.
I'm going to tell you why they don't know that.
Tell me why, Matt.
Because this is
a
going to
kid
be
show?
controversial.
All right, let's see. Matt's being controversial. Surprise. Let's go.
But the decision to bring Darth Maul back is dumb.
Well,
Okay.
it's not dumb.
Hold on. Let's hear why.
Hear him
Matt,
out.
Tell me. Hear me.
Because he got
Hear
cut
you.
in half. Okay.
Yeah.
And he fell down a big shaft thing.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Right.
he should be dead.
Do you
and
think-
Pablo Hidalgo wonders why we don't trust that Darth Sidious is dead. It's because you brought back Darth Maul.
Let me ask you a question.
Well,
Okay, Pablo didn't
Do
do
you
that.
think?
he makes a good point.
Do you think Darth Maul, just inside of the Phantom Menace, was a good character?
He was awesome.
So, do you think it was justified?
Oh, I'm happy they brought him back. I
Okay.
just think it was
George Lucas loved Darth Maul. Absolutely loved.
I think Darth Maul was an
Darth
amazing
Maul.
character.
Yeah.
It's one of his best creations.
That's why one of the reasons why he wanted to do Clone Wars was to bring back Darth Maul.
And I love Darth Maul's arc in the Clone
You
Wars.
guys want to talk about justice for Barb? Justice
What?
for Darth Maul.
Oh my gosh! out of nowhere
we're
with
so
the Barb
relevant.
RKO.
But yeah, I mean, I think honestly, and I think we've said this before as we've head down the prequels path. Darth Maul is one of the best things that happened to the prequels. If he would have been the antagonist of the entire series, it would have been dope. It would have been so cool. It would
Right.
have been awesome. He'd have been a great character. He was a great antagonist, and then they just murdered him all willy nilly and throw him down a shaft.
Well,
And
they didn't murder
before
him.
he
How
killed
could
our
they?
Lord and Savior Qui-Gon Jinn. So
So that's why I would say Yeah, I mean, I would get that right off the bat. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that Darth Maul still being alive
Darth
is
Maul-
actually canon.
Right.
He's
Yes.
still alive.
He comes
Yeah.
back to life.
Comes back to
metaphorically.
life. He
He doesn't come back to
borderline-
life. He just never died.
He borderline enslaves Mandalore.
yes.
He takes over the planet of Mandalore.
Yes.
Comes into possession of the Darksaber,
Yes.
and eventually goes on to keep living into Star Wars Rebels.
He does.
So this is pre A New Hope, makes it all the way to that point, and he's kind of has the mission to take down Sidious
yes.
for revenge sake.
Because he was thrown down a shaft and cast and forgotten because he was seen as weak.
Right.
But before that, he wanted to get revenge on Kenobi.
Kenobi!
Right, because Kenobi cut him in half, so his life's goal was to take down Obi-Wan.
So the guy's got some grudges.
He's
Guy
got
has some
two
slight issues.
huge grudges.
He's got a little bit of mental issues.
He wants revenge on Kenobi
Right.
for,
Cut him in half.
cutting the man down to size, if you know what I mean.
Justified.
Justified. And also, he was forgotten by Sidious. Sidious knew he lived.
Well, I mean, I'd be kind of pissed if some dude took me away from my family, raised me to be this kind of dark assassin, and then knew that I lived and then said, I don't really want you anymore.
Right.
Wait.
Understandable. Go ahead.
Can we go back for
Yeah.
the viewers that just don't know?
Sure,
How in the
Adam.
world does he live?
Yeah.
So,
If he was cut in
Adam,
half?
Matt, hit me.
Matt, hit us.
Our resident Darth Maul.
I don't know how he got out of Naboo. That's never explained.
It is hinted at, but yeah.
He has mechanical legs
He somehow ends up in a trash pile.
somehow.
And then they have a planet that it is a trash planet that the planet is a landfill. And somehow he ends up on that. I don't think they're really super clear on that. Then he builds himself a pair of robot legs out of trash.
But he's sort of crazy at that point.
He's off his freaking rocker.
Well, in order to survive, he just is
He's like,
completely going off hate.
If you're asking how he survived the fall, then there is precedent in Star Wars for Force users to be able to survive
Yeah, that
crazy
does- that
falls.
does happen a
So
lot.
we saw Luke Skywalker
Right, Luke fell the same
fall
distance.
probably the same distance in Empire. So,
Right.
but yeah,
And there are some speculatory things out there that being able to not necessarily bring yourself back to life, but keep yourself alive was taught to him by Sidious.
Somewhat
Interesting.
explained to
Well,
me.
Wait a minute,
Unnatural.
because that raises some very interesting questions.
Santa Fe.
Yeah, so, the tragedy. Darth
Yeah, well,
Plagueis
wait a
the
minute.
Wise.
If Darth Sidious knew that enough to teach Maul how to do it, then why didn't he do it?
I don't know. I'm just telling you.
Well, I think there's a difference between surviving
And I'm also
when
telling
you're
you
in
speculation.
one piece and a difference between being on a thing in space that completely
Oh yeah,
explodes.
blew up. I forgot
So
that
basically,
part. Okay.
he
Never mind.
harnesses
Carry
his
on.
anger and angst to keep himself alive. He harnesses his anger and he holds
Killing
on to
these
it.
walls.
And that's also a way that he harnesses the Force, the dark part of the Force, to keep himself alive.
also just for reference, as far as being cut in half,
Yeah.
lightsabers in the Star Wars universe cauterize wounds. So it's
Unless you're Ponda Baba's race.
Or if Quentin Tarantino's directing the movie.
And, or
Or a snow beast.
Thank
or a
God
snow
he
beast.
wasn't.
Yeah. All right, keep it rolling, John. Keep it rolling. Or
Yeah.
just anything
Yeah.
in the OT. Yeah,
Right.
keep going. Hit us with it.
That's it, man. That's just
Anytime before that was not a thing.
I mean,
But we
this
don't
is
talk about
this
that
is
now.
one of those things
Or
that kind of
Tauntaun.
goes back to what Matt said. That is it dumb that they brought him back? Yeah, maybe a little dumb, but there's always a way to explain it.
Right.
That they figured out how to explain. Oh well, lightsabers cauterize wounds. Jedi can fall from really high places.
This is a thing where one dumb decision fixed another dumb decision.
Right. So
They-
anyway,
they, just
Right.
they just
That's a
shouldn't
good
have
point.
killed him.
Yeah, exactly.
They shouldn't have killed him. That was the
Exactly.
dumbest
In
thing.
Phantom
That was the
Menace.
first one,
Correct.
and then bringing him back fixed that decision.
so he lives.
But we love him
So
enough
he lives.
not to mind.
He's filled with anger and rage times 2.
Right.
Continue the story of what happened, Sean. I think you
Well, explain, Matt or Ike. You guys are Clone Wars pros.
I can
so
explain it.
so tell me his Clone Wars arc.
So he gets this brother,
yes.
Savage Oppress.
Yeah,
which-
Savage or Savage, I don't know why you say
I'm
it.
going
Savage
Savage.
Opress,
Mhm.
and he goes and finds him on the trash planet, and takes him back to the Night Sisters.
Yes.
Who
Which are like
are-
the witch group of Star Wars.
Right.
They're like dark side witches,
Yes.
and they fix him
Yeah.
both in the head and his legs.
Kind of in the head. he still is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's not like babbling idiot crazy. When
Right.
you find him, he's basically just like spouting off crazy words.
He's like an animal.
Yes, he's like an animal basically. He even looks like one. He looks like a giant
He looks
spider.
like a spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His like legs that he's created are like giant spider
Which
legs.
is cool.
Which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And he's just like a babbling Revenge and Kenobi and all that good stuff. So yeah, from there, keep going, Matt, if you could.
Over all of our wives.
So from there, he and his brother Savage, well, first they try to get revenge on Obi-Wan because that's like all he cares about.
Right. First and foremost, get Obi-Wan's.
But he quickly realizes that he's not going to be able to do that because the Jedi are always going to send more than just Obi-Wan. So
It's going to be difficult to get Obi-Wan revenge.
by himself.
And it's not just going to be, let's kill Obi-Wan. He's going to have to get revenge other ways.
Right. So he comes up with his plan to unite the crime families of the galaxy. And those would be, help me out here, the Hutts, the Black Sun.
And what's the Mandalorian one? That's the terrorist cell.
Oh. The
Night Watch.
Death Squad?
Death
Night
Watch.
Death Watch.
Nailed it.
Yep.
Got it together.
Got him.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
And they all team up and take over Mandalore, which, if you don't know, Duchess Satine was the leader of Mandalore.
AKA
And
Obi-Wan Kenobi's girlfriend.
Also, Obi-Wan's love interest.
Yes. Which he said that he would leave the Jedi Order for her if she would have asked.
Yeah. So
Cue
serious stuff
speculation
here.
intensity.
Yeah.
Oh, you
so
mean
much.
that she's Rey's grandma?
Who, I'm going to be honest
Well,
with you guys,
Rey's grandma.
She does have
is
a
a really
sister.
awesome character.
She does have a
She
sister.
does have a sister.
Right? Bo-Katan?
that we don't know what happened to. I don't
We
think.
do.
We do know what happened
You
to
Oh.
Bo-Katan.
haven't watched.
I don't
You may
know
not
what happened
know.
to.
Matt
But
don't know.
we
Okay, anyway,
know.
back to Maul's arc.
So, they succeed in taking over the planet and imprison Satine and let her escape so she can call Obi-Wan. And Mandalore is a neutral system, so the Republic won't send help, but Obi-Wan loves Satine, so he goes to help her anyway. And long story short, he gets captured. Maul then murders Satine right in front of him
In cold blood, man.
in
Cold
cold
blood. It's
blood.
pretty harsh. It's pretty intense for a kid show.
It's real brutal.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the most serious part of the show.
Yeah, I would
Probably.
say it's the most serious part in non-movie Star Wars.
I guess we should probably put a spoiler tag on this episode.
There's always
Yeah,
spoiler
that's
tags.
probably a good idea.
We're really
I-
close. If you guys are
yeah.
following along in the 100 Days, we're actually really close to this.
Yeah,
We're-
it
we're
just
like right
it
in
just
there.
happened.
It
It
just
just happened
happened.
this week. That's
Yeah.
why I remember. So anyway, of course, Obi-Wan escapes again with the help of Satine's sister. He gets off the planet, and who shows up but the big guy himself, Darth Sidious, to deal with his former apprentice.
Right, which happens, which you may not know. It is dealt with
Yeah.
in the comics.
Ooh.
This is what the non-Marvel comic is. It finishes that arc. That's the
The
one.
Sons
yeah,
of
because
Dathomir?
so
Yes, the Sons of Dathomir book is finished, and that is how Savage Opress dies. So Savage Opress, Maul's
Ah.
brother, is killed, and basically Mr. Dookie and Sidious show up to Mandalore and take it back.
yeah.
And then they enslave the Mandalorians.
Like you do.
Yeah, so which is a really interesting comic if you guys are ever interested. It is one of the best comics, especially if you really like that
Give
arc.
us that title.
Super rare, though.
What's that?
Comic title?
Sons of Dathomir.
Sons of Dathomir.
Yeah, it is super rare. If you find one in stores, please buy it because
Isn't that like the
Unless
last?
it's the issue number one. Then, then
yeah,
give
the
it to
issue.
Ike.
I actually have 3 of the 4 issues. They're. I found them by diving into some random lady's
Like
collection
hoarder hole.
hoarder hole. Yeah, they're really cool though.
Yeah.
And they're super rare because they're the only canon comic that isn't Marvel.
Right.
That isn't printed by Marvel.
Is it Dark Horse?
It's Dark Horse, yes. So they run like about $40 an issue and about $100.
But they like the
for
last Dark Horse comics right after they, or something like that.
Yes.
That's how
yeah.
they
I think there may
became
have been a Dark Horse comic that came out after it, but it isn't considered canon.
Ah.
They only consider it canon because it finishes the arc of Clone Wars.
Right.
So anyway, moving on. So yeah, that happens, and that also fuels his angst for Sidious because he kills his brother.
Yeah, I think that's really what turns him against Sidious because
Right.
he beats him in battle and doesn't take him back.
So Rebels.
Yeah, so he kind of disappears for the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
We don't know what he does. That we haven't heard that
No.
story at least. And then one day Ezra Bridger is on Malachor,
Yes.
hanging out with Kanan and Ahsoka Tano, and he gets separated and finds his old man, who turns out to be Darth Maul himself.
Correct, he does.
Now just calling himself Maul.
Which is a
Maul,
really
yeah, no
cool
longer Darth.
moment in Rebels.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what?
So yeah, sorry, Richie. Spoilers.
It's okay.
But yeah, he shows up and basically spends the rest of that. What is it? Season 2 or 3?
That's the season finale of 2.
Season finale
So
of 2.
he's-
So he
he's in
spends most
3.
of 3 trying to seduce Ezra to the dark side.
Right.
Oh, one thing that's really interesting about that is he's really changed as a character from Clone Wars to
Yeah,
Rebels.
Yeah,
he's
to
still
see-
pretty angsty and crazy in the head, but he's got himself together a little
What's
bit.
super cool to see is progression from episode 1. He's a silent killer, silent assassin who really doesn't talk at all. And then by the time we get to Rebels, he's this cunning, conniving,
Very cunning,
mastermind,
mind games.
Yeah.
where has all these.
He's kind of turned into who Sidious is. Kind
Right,
of
he does.
a bit of a
He's-
Sidious
he's a
character.
mini Sidious,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's super interesting to see his mental growth throughout that time, to
Yeah.
see that trauma that he goes through, and to see how he comes out on the other side. With the same villain at the end, I mean, his enemy is the viewer's enemy.
Right.
You know, he just has different means as to how he wants to approach
Right.
it.
Which is a really cool arc.
Yeah, super cool.
An empathetic dark side character is really
yeah,
cool.
I never thought I would be emotionally hurt a bit to see Darth Maul die.
Yeah.
And the
So
way
yeah,
that
tell us how that happens. Tell us how it happens.
So I mean, as I
For the
was
viewers,
saying,
listeners, I mean.
Maul is trying to seduce Ezra to the dark side, and eventually they do this thing where they merge these two holocrons, a Sith holocron and a Jedi holocron, and it shows both Ezra and Maul that what they seek is on the twin sons of Tatooine.
Right.
For Maul, arguably he's seeking Kenobi, or he might be seeking someone
Luke.
who can help him take down Darth Sidious,
Right.
who is
Luke.
Luke. And Ezra's looking for the hope for to bring down the Empire, which is Luke as well.
Right.
So they both go to Tatooine.
Yeah. Sidious knows where the twin sons are. Or not
Maul.
Sidious. Maul knows where the twin sons are.
Right.
Ezra does not. So he gets a bit of a
Correct.
jump.
Right. So Maul gets to Tatooine ahead of time and goes crazy, getting lost in the desert,
Yeah.
and realizes he needs to bring someone else that Kenobi will help. And the easiest person to do that is the guy who has a connection with is Ezra. So he basically gets into Ezra's head and gets him to go to Tatooine, and winds up getting Ezra in trouble. Ezra kind of collapses in the desert, and old man Kenobi, comes out of nowhere to save Ezra. And the voice actor for Kenobi,
Incredible.
Steven
Spot
Stanton, fantastic. Sounds exactly like Alec Guinness.
It's creepy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Ezra Bridger, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real good.
It's good.
So the fireside chat, Kenobi knows what's coming. Maul shows up, and they have a Seventh Samurai type duel
Yep.
where
Cuts him down.
Obi-Wan versus Maul, and Maul is just pure anger again,
Right.
just trying to he's old and he's kind of beaten down. He's not the fighter that he used to be.
The mental game that happens right there
right.
I think
it's
is like
super
one of my
interesting.
favorite parts of Star Wars. I'm going to be honest.
Most of the battle is them just sizing each other up,
Right.
changing stances. Kenobi starts out in his traditional
Peace sign
his
stance.
peace sign from Revenge of the Sith, where in a traditional Kenobi stance, and then he shifts to Qui-Gon Jinn stance, and that's when Maul sees his opening, because he's like, I'm going to do the same thing I did to Maul, to Qui-Gon Jinn when I killed him.
Which is
where-
give him the head punch with the
right,
butt of
do
the
the fake, and then the punch in the face with the
Right.
butt of your lightsaber, twist and stick it in the stomach. But Kenobi knows what's coming because he's brilliant,
right.
and he just slices straight down the middle.
Yeah, so when he goes for the head punch, he
Right.
slices right through the middle of the lightsaber, right through basically Maul right down the chest.
Right, just slices him right down the middle, and Maul immediately changes in terms of his
Right.
what he because basically the only reason why Kenobi fought him was because he found out Maul basically
He's like,
used-
he's going to kill Luke,
he's
and I
like-
got to protect
he's
him.
like, Kenobi is here for a reason. You're probably protecting somebody, and Kenobi's like, all right, well, you got to die now,
Right.
because nobody can know that Luke's here, and slices him down the middle, and Maul immediately gets and Kenobi is the most gracious person in the Star Wars saga.
Right.
This man who
killed your lover.
killed his lover in cold blood, and is a part of the reason why he's banished to this desert. And as Maul is dying, Kenobi catches him as he falls, and holds him with him until he passes. And Maul says, "Is he?"
And gives him peace, yeah.
Right, gives him peace. And Maul said, "Is he the chosen one?" Referring to Luke, and Obi-Wan says, "Yes, he is, or I believe he is." And Maul says, "I hope he avenges us both."
Yeah.
And it's like,
You're like, oh,
Oh, man.
peace for Maul.
because you realize that Maul is really just this tormented character.
He wants the same thing as Kenobi at this point.
Right, he does. So that's why I
Which
was
is
like,
revenge on Sidious.
we were saying before, is like he's like borderline close to if he somehow Kenobi talks him down in that scenario, he's borderline close to being redeemed and kind of being like an anti-hero role. I think he'd be close to being able to be that.
He's definitely as close to being redeemed as he ever
Right.
was and will be.
Right. So I mean, it's this common trend that we see in Star Wars villains where there's chances for them to be redeemed.
Yeah.
You know, so we see Maul has a chance there. Vader has his chance at the very well. He's multiple chances, but at the very end he takes it.
Right.
I'd say Dooku is probably the only one because he was a boring villain in general who really
He's,
didn't have
real
anything.
stupid. So.
But
So I
yeah,
call him Dookie. So anyway, I mean, I think the point of this conversation to see this arc of Maul, which is an incredible arc.
it's
I know
it's one
a lot
of the
people,
best character journeys.
I think a lot of people, and I don't know if we've directly addressed this for our listeners. If you guys haven't, when I first heard that Maul lived, when I was getting back into Star Wars about 10 years ago, I was like, oh, cool. So like Star Wars, Maul's living. That's really dumb. Like I thought it was like super anticlimactic and really stupid. But the truth is, if you guys get an opportunity to go back and like experience the entire Maul arc, it is incredible. It is, in my opinion, the coolest arc in Star Wars. So I guess our main question when we were bringing this up is, what is it about this arc that you guys think you could see that could potentially get tied into a villain arc in The Last Jedi / the Skywalker saga?
yeah.
Now, what do we see in maybe Kylo or Snoke? Probably Kylo is obviously the more of the discussion
Right.
because we don't know much about Snoke. And everybody thinks, I think, if there's somebody that's going to be redeemed or have an interesting arc, it's going to be him.
Right.
But we don't know enough about Snoke, I guess. But what do you guys think?
And that's where I kind of think that at the end where we see Maul have the same goals as our heroes, I think that could be something that happens with Kylo where he winds up having the same goals as our heroes
Right.
by the end.
I kind of, just me personally,
You personally, sure.
struggle to see like a full redemption happening for Kylo, just because
He killed the most beloved character in Star Wars
right,
history.
right. I just doubt that most of the fandom's going to get on board with it. So I feel like if they're smart, the way they're writing Kylo Ren is that it would be something kind of like that, where he remains a villain, but he's no longer, he's no longer with
He leaves the
Snoke.
First Order.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Still a villain, but not part of the First Order, not, with Snoke.
Right.
So I would like to see that.
Yeah, does a redemption... That's a good question. Does the redemption of Kylo bastardize the death of Han?
I don't think it bastardizes it. I think it gives it meaning.
I think if they play it right, it could.
Right.
If it was one of the major factors that brought him back.
Because if we have, if we have Kylo in the same situation with his mom and then break down with her or something like that and say, eventually be like, I can't do this and I should never have killed Dad.
Right.
Or if he calls him Dad, because he calls him Han Solo.
Right.
The
He
whole
won't,
time.
he won't call him dad.
Right. So if he did something like that and you could see that he's tortured as well, because I think he is, that he's just kind of been, brainwashed a bit by Snoke and kind of lost who he is.
Right.
He's just a lost kid, you know?
We're all been lost kids at one point in our lives, right? I don't know. I really...
Kind of like Darth Maul. He was pretty young when Palpatine.
He did,
came
yeah,
along.
he
Right,
was-
yeah. I mean, that's where it's similar, where he got taken as a kid and
Yeah.
kind of seduced a bit and told what was right, and then thrown away at the next chance that Palpatine had a best thing, and that could be happening again, where Snoke is trying so hard with Kylo Ren, and then has a better thing going in Rey, and says, you know what, forget you, Kylo, I'm going after her instead. That could be interesting.
Matt, you really like to hit on these major character arcs.
Hit us with some.
Yeah, I'm kind of
with
interested in
thematic terms,
what you have to say.
some words that I can't understand, like quibble.
So the one thing that I was thinking about as we were talking about the wrap up of the Darth Maul story is Darth Maul's sort of realization that he comes to that Sidious was just using him all along. And I'm almost wondering if Kylo Ren feels that way about Luke.
What about Snoke?
Well, I think Snoke, because the same thing happened with Anakin, where the Dark Lord always makes you feel like, oh, we're friends, I care about you, we're
Yeah.
family, and then the veil comes off and it's like, oh, you're just doing my bidding or whatever.
Yeah.
But you think maybe he felt that way about Luke?
I think he may feel that way both ways.
Well, he might eventually.
Right,
Yeah.
which is
I don't-
why he'll just
Maybe
team up
not
with-
this second,
team
right?
with-
But
with Rey,
because
Right.
that's what Leia says. She says that in The Force Awakens, doesn't she? Snoke was just using him.
Right. But you don't really see that, I don't think, in The Force Awakens anyway. It's not as clear that. Like,
Yeah.
it still seems like Snoke almost treats him like a son. Like,
Right.
he almost thinks about Snoke like a surrogate father, which is how Anakin thought of Sidious.
Sidious, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if the blinders come off.
Right.
If he sees, if he becomes aware that, oh, he's just using me for whatever he's using him for.
Right.
But it's interesting to see if maybe he felt that way about Luke, and that's what made him vulnerable in the first place.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely doesn't trust Luke and feels betrayed by Luke because he never told him who Luke's father was, and therefore Kylo's grandfather.
Man,
Or-
everybody's got daddy issues.
Or because they found this mysterious girl on Jakku, and they,
Wow.
Luke refused to take her. And
I don't know, man.
oh, that's maybe a story for a different time.
yeah,
But,
cool.
I think it's all we got time for. So I hope
talk.
you guys enjoyed this little villain chat. If you guys have a specific villain that you want us to talk about that we might not hit on, go ahead and hit us up on Twitter. Let us know if you have any other questions. Ike was saying, we got like 44 days left until the Last
42,
Jedi.
43, 44.
Power
something
through
like
100 Days of Star Wars. You'll be proud of yourself at the end, and I think it'll definitely be worth the payoff. But just thanks for stopping by, and we hope we see you next time.
Dun 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 dun.